Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, Homeschool Piece. I'm Cassandra. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the Language Arts curriculum, the Logic of English Foundations Level D. Now if you're new to Logic of English, I encourage you to click one of the links below. I have a link to an overview of the program as well as links to the levels A, B, and C of the program. Today I'm going to be sharing Level D, and I'm going to be talking about what is new in D compared to A through C, as well as sharing a sample lesson. The first thing that I want to talk about is spelling. In the other levels, A through C, you do have spelling, and there are 5 spelling words for each lesson. In Level D, that gets bumped up, and you're going to be having 8 spelling words. There's also 2 parts of spelling for each lesson. In the very first part of the lesson, you're going to be doing your finger spelling and your analysis with your child as they write out those 8 spelling words. The later part of the lesson, the child goes back to those spelling words and they're going to be practicing their spelling words, doing some really fun activities. When they go through that practice, you want to start drifting from you really just working with them to spelling these words to the point that they can write these words on their own and they're able to remember their own spelling words. And of course, if they need help, you can always help them out, but you want them to be able to start actually memorizing how to write these words and writing these words on their own. The other part of spelling that we see in D is with the reviews. Now we see the reviews as part of the other levels. Every 5 chapters there's a review and there's 40 chapters for each book. But the reviews as part of D are set up more similar to a test. You are going to see some numbered questions on each of the test pages, as well as within that review is a spelling test. There are 10 words that you want your child to spell, and you pull those spelling words from the actual lesson that you just went through for those 5 lessons. I would just select 2 words for each lesson that I went through and then just keep building that list. So then when we're approaching review day, that I would have a list of 10 words that I can give to them. And we would practice, whether in the evening or on a weekend, we would practice, because I wanted to start teaching my kid the feeling of having to take a spelling test. And you know, you're talking about a 1st or 2nd grader, maybe starting to introduce the concept of some grading and how things are worth certain points. So now obviously every parent can make a decision on when you want to introduce grading as part of your homeschooling. For my kids, I love that little introduction of grading and sort of a little bit of pressure of, I need to study for my spelling test on this certain date. So one really great chart that's part of the book is this one. It says how to add a suffix to any word. And this is taught through the D book, going through each level as you go down, being able to figure out if it's because of the silent final E, is it situation 1 vowel, 1 consonant, is it the single vowel Y, and how do I add that suffix? And this chart is very helpful when working with your kids. The next thing new in the program is advanced phonogram cards. You continue to review all the basic. There's 74 basic phonograms that have been introduced through A through C of the program. You're going to continue to review those as part of D through every single lesson. Every lesson starts with a phonogram review. But we are going to see the introduction of advanced phonograms. Now this stack of cards that you can get through Logic of English website, that it is quite large of advanced phonograms, but through D you're actually only going to go through 8. So there's 8 advanced phonogram cards that you do as part of the program. You are going to save this stack of advanced cards because you are going to use these as you go into the Logic of English Essentials program, which is the next program after D. What I love about the advanced phonogram cards they do introduce in the Level D program is they are words that we do hear regularly in children's books, but they are phonograms that are not commonly used in a lot of words. So this one being our Latin sh is something that you see in the word ocean. I mean, I've had my kids multiple times ask me, why does the CE in the word ocean make a sh sound? And it's because it is a Latin sh. And so this one really just explains why we read and say ocean as we do. And you also see it as like our 2-letter G, our advanced 2-letter G, like in the word ghost or ghastly. That's a common one that we see. Or even our ur and like Europe or chauffeur. So if they're reading a book and it has the word Europe in it, it can make more sense to them when they see some of these advanced phonograms. So as you're going through it, only know that only 8 are new. There is not a picture book as part of D. Now, if you really liked the picture books like the Whistling Whales and the Knitting Knights, still pull those out if that's helpful for your kids and review those initial 74 phonograms, the basic phonograms. And then just pull out your cards, your advanced phonogram cards, and review the additional 8 that they're going to be learning as part of this level. The next thing that we see is our grammar cards. There are 10 grammar cards that you're going to be going through in level D. Very common parts of speech. You're going to be teaching nouns, common and proper nouns. You're also going to be going through verbs and adjectives, as well as what a sentence structure should be. That a sentence has to have a capital letter, and it must have a subject, a verb, and must have a complete thought with an end mark. So you're going to be going through how to create a sentence with your kids. There are some really great challenges and extra writing activities throughout level D program, and they do have sentences that they want the kids to start writing. So these grammar cards really help them how to form sentences, how to really describe their nouns better by adding those adjectives. And so we're going to start seeing some grammar rules and grammar cards being introduced as part of the D program. During the Foundations D program, we do still have the readers that we've been seeing through the other levels. The additional item that we have in D is some fiction readers that tie directly to the book that's through the logic of English. So in this example, we have a nonfiction book called Mouse and Mole. So your child is going to read about mice and moles and get to learn about what the differences are between the two and be able to learn some great facts about these animals. After they've read this nonfiction book, then they get to read the fiction book called Upstairs Mouse and Downstairs Mole. And this is a really fun fiction book, and my kid really enjoyed going through it. And so it ties together, and then when you're done doing this lesson, there's additional writing, maybe some dictation, or a little project about mice and moles. We see this really with all of the readers. Some other examples that I have to share is My Nest is Best. So we have a nonfiction book about different birds and different nests. After they've read this nonfiction book, then they read the fiction book, The Best Nest. And then additionally, we see that with Frog and Toad. We have a Frog or Toad nonfiction book, and then we get to go through the Frog and Toad fiction book. So these are just real fun readers that your kids get to read to you, and I love how it ties the nonfiction and the fiction together, and then having those great writing and additional activities as part of the themes while you're going through each of the lessons. The next thing I wanted to share with you is one of the reviews or tests that you see. This is something every 5 lessons you're going to see a review. Now you can choose if you want to make this feel more like a test, or if this is something that you're just helping them with a review. It's up to your home to decide. I use this as a test, and so I would sit there and give them the phonograms they need to write. There would be suffixes that they would need to add to the words. There was a section for editing. For this one would be capitalizations. There's a section for identifying nouns. This one had abbreviations that they had to match up, which then brings to your spelling list. Now these are the 10 words that I had pre-selected through the 5 lessons we went through that they studied prior to this test, or if you use it as a review, just maybe 10 words that they practiced before the review. And I asked them to spell these 10 words on their own. Then there's a story at the end. Now the story has a certain number of words for the story. You can find the number of words right in the teacher manual, and then you're actually going to be timing your child as they are reading it. I try to tell my kids before they read, you don't want to try to read so fast that you're forgetting what you're reading and not understanding, but you want to read at a nice speed. So make sure you're at a comfortable speed and just trying to get through it, but make sure you're understanding what you're reading. So then as they're reading it, if there is a word that they completely jump over and just miss, that is something I just make a little mark on a piece of paper that I have in front of me, as well as if, say, something they completely messed up a word and didn't say correctly. Because you take those words off of the total number of word count, And so it's just as simple that you're just taking the number of words for the story and you're dividing it by how long it took them to read it. And that's going to give a rate on where they are with their words per minute. And there's a chart within each review in the teacher manual that you can see where is your kid falling for their reading speed as well as fluency, if they're sounding out each individual word, or if they're saying the words smoothly and saying with expression. So you're almost able to see, like, are they falling in a 2nd grade reading level, or is it a 4th grade reading level? And they also have it between like fall and spring semester of the different grade levels. I found that really helpful for me to get a really good feel for where my child is with reading. So now I just wanted to share with you an actual lesson that we see in the D level. So I'm going to be going through lesson 153. So in 153, the first thing we have is a stack it game. Now, in this game, this was so much fun for my kids. We ended up doing this game multiple times. We know that there are phonograms that make multiple sounds, and some of those phonograms say the same sound. So something like our oo, o phonogram says the O sound, oo, O, its third sound, as well as the OW says ow, O. So what we would do is make this lineup of phonograms, and so I would say lay 1, oo, O, and so then my child had to find another phonogram that said at least one of the sounds that the previous phonogram said. So we would say, okay, O, they both say O. And then the next person would then draw a card. So they say this one, being our O that may not be used at the end of an English word, this says O as well, can then be tagged right to our ow, O. So we would make these nice lineups of different phonograms that all relate to each other because of the similar sounds that they make. So this game of our stack it was very fun for in our home. The next thing that we would do as a lesson is a spelling array. Now in the spelling array, they are looking at some base words and they're adding some suffixes to it. They are using their suffix chart to help go through adding those suffixes, and they're writing out some of the words. The next thing in the lesson are contractions. Contractions are taught in the D program, and this one's simply that we're doing some contractions on the board, then they have a worksheet activity that they're then going ahead and doing some matching of their contractions. At the end of this part, that would be the end of my lesson for the day. If you think about it, they just spent a while playing a long game with me after they did the phonogram game and reviewing their phonograms. Then we went ahead and did that spelling array with lots of additional handwriting, and then they did some contractions. I would have actually stopped my lesson there. If your child can go on longer, obviously feel free to go longer in your lessons, but I would stop there and then start the next day. So the next day we would start with subject and verb agreements. Now these are just little cards that you would cut out from the worksheet, and they would put together a subject. So, maybe it's something like tigers, and then tigers maybe sleep. So tigers sleep. And then, maybe it's birds tweet. And then at the end, they can sort of mix them up and make some funny ones. Maybe it's like tigers tweet. But they're basically identifying what is the subject or the noun, and then what is a verb, and making some subject and verb agreements. After that, you go into your spelling list for the day. Again, we have 8 spelling words. My kid, after writing 8 spelling words, is pretty tapped out for the day. They're not going to be able to do anything more, so that after spelling, I would end the lesson. So for the spelling list for the day, we have arrive, stare, breathe, believe, excitement, angry, worth, and ocean. So I would help them finger spell. We would do the finger spelling analysis, and they would write out their spelling words for the day, and I would end there. And then we would move into day 3 of the lesson. And it starts with this book called Dogsworth in New York, and this is one of the fiction books that they've been reading. And they would be reading the chapter called The Train. Now this book is set in the city of New York City, and so during this reading, they'd also encourage you to take a little bit of time to talk with your kids about New York, finding it on a map, going ahead and maybe watching some videos or reading some books about New York and some of the main sites that you would see in the city. We did do this. It did take some additional time. So when we got done reading as well as learning and maybe watching some videos on New York, that was also the end of day 3 for our reading lesson. So that finally brings us into day 4 of this lesson, and we started with dictation. Now, dictation is when I simply say the sentence and the child is supposed to remember the sentence and then spell the words themselves. So this sentence is, the Statue of Liberty is in New York City. So this is something they want them to write. So they would just use a piece of notebook paper and they just write it on a piece of notebook paper. And obviously I can help them if they're having any trouble with the words, but this is the time that you do want to have them try to spell it first on their own. The last thing is the spelling activity, and this is a time for them to practice those spelling words that they've been working on. For this one, they're going to be taking a Q-tip and dipping it into paint and writing their spelling words with a Q-tip. So there's something really different there. It's just fun for them. And obviously once you pull out paint and they're writing 8 spelling words out, after that, that's pretty much the end of it, because they're going to be starting making pictures and painting other things. So for day 4, it would have been writing that sentence and then practicing their spelling words. So as you can see, there's a lot in each lesson. Now it's up to you if you can get that into 3 days or if you need 4 days, but make sure you spend those extra times doing those extra activities and getting the most you can out of any of the writing projects as part of the D program. So that's the end of Foundations Level D and the end of the Foundations program. And if you liked this video, just go ahead and click that like button and go ahead and click subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions about the Logic of English program, please go ahead and post your comments below. I'd love to be able to show you more or be able to answer any of your questions that you have. So I hope to talk to you soon. Goodbye.